Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, everybody. This is Sarah, and I am here living with love up in Canada. Love the country that I live in, and I love this group of people that I've connected with to discuss the course. And really, the wonderful thing about joining a group is that you get to be witnesses to each other's miracles, and you get to be witnesses to each other's progression through the course. And when you really open up and allow the truth of the words, and you're feeling the truth on such a deep level, sometimes it might not make sense, but you just have this deep desire to keep listening to it and keep trying to understand, because there's something just so deep in your soul that just gets it. And when you're able to do that, and go through the lessons of the workbook, no matter how many days you want to go lesson by lesson, I highly recommend doing it. It will change your life for the better. And I have a couple of happy guys here because we're, like I said, we're just happy students. So I have Peter and Matthew. Hi, guys.
Hello, Sarah. Hi, Matthew.
Hello, Sarah. Hello, Peter.
Yeah, so it's just it's really nice to be able to create this space to do our discussion. And today we are going to talk about triggers and the blessing they present with us. And for those that haven't really figured out what the word trigger means, it has a lot to do with ego. And thanks to all the wonderful spiritual teaching that is elevating our planet to a higher level, so many more people are becoming aware of their ego and how it is really being not nice to themselves and also to other people and the world around them. So when we say the word trigger, what we're meaning is that moment where you have a judgmental thought towards yourself or your outer world or someone else in front of you, and how you're able to identify it, so you notice it, and then you're able to hold it over. I say hold it over to the Holy Spirit or pass it over to the Holy Spirit, which really means that you're allowing a miracle to happen, because if you have a judgmental thought is coming from fear, which is coming from the ego. And if you can take that fear and turn it around, the other thing that's on the other side of that is love and a real sense of peace. And it's just amazing. And Matthew, did you want to start by reading that little intro, or the intro to the course? No, it's not too long, and I think it would set the tone off, right?
Yeah, great. I'd love to. I was just thinking that our topic is triggers, and yeah, I suppose bring that in my awareness now. Everything I'm just noticing all the triggers come up. So what an appropriate topic for healing to take place.
Mm-hmm.
So the introduction to A Course in Miracles. The introduction to A Course in Miracles is this. This is A Course in Miracles. It's a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love. That is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is our natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very, very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God.
Good. So I'm just wondering, Peter, do you have anything that's coming up right now when thinking about triggers that you could share with us?
I've been lately trying to look deeper why sometimes it seems that there's a real reluctance, in fact, to hand over things to the Holy Spirit. And I've been witnessing dynamics where it seems quite obvious that a person is perhaps projecting their fears outward or their judgments outward, And yet, I notice also that there seems to be even a deeper fear, and this is on some level I'm sure true of all of us, a deeper fear of in fact handing things over to the Holy Spirit. And so I've been trying to look at that in my own life and beginning to recognize, and the Course in Miracles points to it, that the last barrier, in fact, that we need to face is our fear of God and our fear of love. And that until we are able and perhaps confident enough to even look at that dynamic of seeing that our deepest fear, or the fear of the ego, is the fear of love, that might make it a bit easier for us to see why sometimes, even with ourselves, why handing things over to the Holy Spirit is sometimes such a challenge, and why we oftentimes will defend our position, even though part of us knows that doesn't make sense. So, and I guess the other thing I goes to as far as triggers go is how automatic they are. And I know in my own life, oftentimes, especially in our closest relationships, those triggers happen so quickly, where I can see myself being on the defensive. It's almost as if the whole ego dynamic suddenly takes over. And then the most I can sometimes just watch how quickly it happens and how very fearful the ego is, and is wanting to judge, wanting to blame. And I'm beginning to see on a deeper level the ego fearing love almost is programmed to always find something, keep it in a state of fear, because in fact its deepest fear is loving and letting go of that fear, because it fears love even more than it does being fearful.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I'm sure, that's given me a lot to think about in this moment. And I'm sure, Matthew, do you want to just kind of carry on with that? I'm sure that brought something to your mind as well.
Yeah, I really appreciate that last part when Peter's describing how the ego is more afraid of love than it is afraid of fear. So it chooses fear over love, because the ego inherently doesn't know what love is. That's not a part of its function. And it's a funny thing, when we turn our attention over to the Holy Spirit, we are turning our back on the ego in essence. And it's been my experience that a lot of discomfort can come with that decision to choose for holiness, meaning all of these grievances that were previously in the unconscious mind suddenly become conscious as we turn our perception over for correction, meaning we hand it over to the Holy Spirit. And I was just noticing that, before the call, I was kind of setting what my intention is and what kind of sort of energy field or level of perception I would, hold a radio show in mind and the different aspects of it. And then, funny enough, right before you get on, I held these technical difficulties around, which bring me all these grievances. So as soon as I make the decision, or as soon as anyone, all of us, make a decision for that higher-minded place of peace, and all the things that are not peace, all those aversions that we previously had to that state of peace, suddenly make a conscious awareness. And it's really important that in order to work through them, or in order to hand over the Holy Spirit, we really do have to stay focused on that goal, on that outcome of choosing Spirit and choosing God, rather than getting caught in the obstacles. And it's so easy to get caught up in these obstacles to peace, because they seem so daunting when they first arise. And that's why it takes such vigilance and discipline to stay dedicated to the Holy Spirit as we choose Him and surrender all of these discomforts. And there's just one little section here that I'll read to kind of conclude my point. And it's on page 26 in the text, chapter 2, section 5, paragraph 7. And I'll just go ahead and read the whole paragraph, and it kind of sums up the point here. Corrective learning always begins with the awakening of spirit and the turning away from the belief in physical sight. This often entails fear, because you are afraid of what your spiritual sight will show you. I said before that the Holy Spirit cannot be error, and is capable only of looking beyond it to to the defense of atonement. There is no doubt that this may produce discomfort, yet the discomfort is not the final outcome of the perception. When the Holy Spirit is permitted to look on the defilement of the altar, he also looks immediately toward the atonement. Nothing he perceives can induce fear. Everything that results from spiritual awareness is merely channelized toward correction. And then this final sentence is very significant for my own learning. Discomfort is aroused only to bring the need for correction into awareness. And so in a nutshell, discomfort is actually a gift given to us in the sense that as long as we can focus on surrendering it or forgiving that discomfort, on the other side is a wonderful alleviation, sense of peace and joy. That only comes, however, if we stay focused. In this case, it's talking about how the Holy Spirit stays focused on the goal of the atonement, which is the interlocking chain of forgiveness in which we have that everlasting sense of deep peace within our mind, which is always there. However, we're not necessarily aware of it in current or in certain levels of perception. Yet when we do stay focused on that goal, and we do have the willingness to look at the discomfort and release it to higher power, then we are able to choose once again and release our mind to a place of peace.
Thank you for that. Man, I'm checking the time. Oh, we're doing fabulously. It feels like we've been on the phone for a long time, which is kind of strange. But we've only been 12 minutes in. This is awesome. Time is moving.
Yeah.
Peter, do you want to add anything in there?
What occurred to me was that one of the things helpful to be aware of is that when we feel that discomfort, it's almost like behind the discomfort is the ego's direction for us to look outward and to keep our vision outward and to do something about the discomfort by changing what appears in front of us or outside of us. So when we feel discomfort, there's a real pull towards immediately doing something about it, changing the situation up there, perhaps changing ourselves and working on the problem, which is exactly what the ego wants us to do, is to work on problem rather than to go to the answer. So to be aware of how the ego operates, like by wanting us to look outside ourselves, to fix something outside or change something outside ourselves, is how it operates. And when we see that, then it becomes a little bit easier to simply recognize that I need do nothing. The more I try and do about the problem, the more I'm still caught up in the ego and thinking that I need to do something first before I can hand it over to the Holy Spirit. Whereas with practice, it becomes easier and easier at the time of discomfort to do the opposite, which is to do nothing and to relax and to surrender.
Yeah, thank you. We're getting a little bit of feedback. I apologize to the listeners. I don't know who it is, but I'm not going to worry about it. I was just thinking, surrender it. There are no problems. You know what? I really appreciate hearing what both of you are saying, and I feel like it's giving me, just a little more depth to my understanding, which is fantastic. And as I had been setting my intention, actually, you know what? I'm just going to mute you both out right now, so I can, just because I'm not sure which one of you it is that is having the kickback. So I'm going to mute, and I'll put you back on when necessary. Maybe it's my line. I don't know. But what I was thinking of reading just a little bit from is Lesson 62, and it is forgiveness is my function as the light of the world. And how I came to come across this, for those of you who are also wanting to, dissect the course and the textbook and the manual a little bit more, what I would highly suggest is, go Google, and if you have a certain topic that you're thinking of, type in A Course in Miracles. And what I typed in was, A Course in Miracles and the ego. And of course, there's going to be a lot of different hits on that. But, if we think about the ego, when we're turning something over, we're noticing that we're thinking with the ego, and then we're turning it over to the Holy Spirit, which means we're going to be forgiving it. I just thought this really was a really good topic. So I'm just going to go ahead and read probably the first couple of paragraphs from it. It is your forgiveness that will bring the world of darkness to the light. It is your forgiveness that lets you recognize the light in which you see. Forgiveness is the demonstration that you are the light of the world. Through your forgiveness does the truth about yourself return to your memory. Therefore, in your forgiveness lies your salvation. Illusions about yourself and the world are one. That is why all forgiveness is a gift to yourself. Your goal is to find out who you are, having denied your identity by attacking creation and its creator. Now you are learning how to remember the truth. For this attack must be replaced by forgiveness, so that thoughts of life may replace thoughts of death. And I really like just the one-liner of Lesson 63, which is in my book on the opposite page. The light of the world brings peace to every mind through my forgiveness. I'm going to put you guys back on the air here. I just really feel that as long as we're always, turning things over from fear to love, and we're forgiving, and we're releasing, any not good feelings, we really do contribute to peace of every mind of every mind, because we're all connected. I think that might have got just slightly off topic here, but I'm sure Matthew can bring us right back with something. So.
Yeah, so those lessons are great. I mean, every lesson really captures the essence of course from a different perception or a different perspective. And, with forgiveness being our only function here, forgiveness and healing being our primary functions here in the world, it's a great thing to always bring our awareness back to that fact. And we're reminded of it for 365 lessons every day of the year when we study the Course. Mm-hmm. I was really drawn when Peter was discussing that we need do nothing, and there's certainly, I'm sure there's many portions of the Course that discuss that. One that came to mind was Lesson 286, and I'll just read the little prayer here that's part of that lesson, because I really feel like it's capturing both what you're contributing with Lesson 62 and 63, and as well as what Peter was describing in his own experience. And Lesson 286 is, the hush of heaven holds my heart today. Father, how still today. How quietly do all things fall in place. This is the day that has been chosen as the time in which I come to understand the lesson that there is no need that I do anything. In you is every choice already made. In you has every conflict been resolved. In you is everything I hope to find already given me. Your peace is mine. My heart is quiet. My mind at rest. Your love is heaven, and your love is mine. And I really feel, that sometimes after reading these lessons, it's always helpful to take a minute or two just to digest, but for the efficiency of time here, just to remind ourselves, the Course had us do it hourly, every 50 minutes, every 10 minutes. You could do it every minute if you felt so desired to remind yourself that every conflict is already resolved, and it's just a matter of our choice to actually see the world through that vision, through that perception of perfection and correction, that we need to do nothing. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean that we, sit at home and do nothing, but what it means is that we're not trying to fix things out in the world. We're not trying to repair people. We're not trying to correct people, not with the ego. It's that inspired voice that comes from within our soul and within our heart and within our mind, and we just feel and know that it's the proper thing to say. It's the corrective thing to say. It just feels good to share it. It feels expansive to share it. And in that, it's not us saying it. It's us allowing the body to be a vehicle of communication and communion with the Holy Spirit. And through Him, we commune with our sisters and brothers before us and share the message of Spirit to them. And that's really what the miracle is when we open our mind to that higher-minded thinking and allow that corrective perception to dawn on our minds so that we may expand our awareness and share that with the world.
Thank you, Matthew. That was really awesome. And Peter, what do you got to say? Are you there, Peter?
Is he on mute?
Yeah, sorry, I put myself on mute.
Oh.
just wanted to make sure that it wasn't. Thanks. I have been listening to everything, and I just want to compliment Matthew on his profound ability just to pick out the right parts in the course, just to substantiate and to bring forth the course's way of expanding upon what we've been talking about. So I think it's just marvelous. One of the things that, again, very recently, when I've begun to acknowledge that sometimes when it seems like such a difficult thing to hand over my desire to change things or my desire to fix something, or when I notice that there still seems to be an annoyance that hasn't been let go of, I found it helpful then to sink to that deeper level where I can begin to acknowledge God in the way of saying, you know, God, there must be something here where I'm still scared of surrendering to you. And whatever thoughts I have, fearful thoughts about letting go of control, or fearful thoughts that there's something within me that's still terribly frightened. Then I hand over even that more basic fear, which has nothing to do with the outside, but the fact that I basically realized there's still something existing within me, some thought that I did something wrong, which again the Course in Miracles talk about. We all feel that we've done something terrible in separating ourselves from God, and some hidden fear that God is now out to get us. And so I've been bringing those beliefs and those thoughts and those feelings to the Holy Spirit, something on a deeper level, simply to say I no longer want to hold on to that belief, or if I had that belief, that there's something to be feared in going to the Holy Spirit, that I want to hand over that also. And then, again, just relax and allow whatever miracles to take place.
Yeah, that just it's just amazing when you think of how many times in your life that you've been able to turn it over to the Holy Spirit, and maybe at the time that you turned it over, you weren't even consciously turning it over to the Holy Spirit, because maybe at that time you weren't a student of A Course in Miracles and you just hadn't got to the awareness, but you did, you just this thing of letting go, and we've all had some really wonderful results with letting go and just surrendering it. So I just have so many different experiences in my life that have really just blown my mind at the way things have come together. And I've had a lot of manifestation things happen earlier on before I got to be part of the course. And the thing I think is the best lesson that I've ever come across is noticing my triggers. I remember when I first started talking with people, from the course, and it was talking to people who were immersed in it for, many years, and I would be at a meeting with them, and they'd say, oh yeah, when that presenter was talking, they were triggering me, and I had no idea what they were I'm triggered, and they're yeah, my ego was going off, and I thought, what are they talking about, right? So I was just still getting to this understanding of it, which is why I wanted to discuss it today. Because when we realize that we're being triggered, it puts us more in a place of being the observer, of realizing that whatever it is that's noticing that thought is the real deal, not the ego. The ego does, it has its mind of its own. So what a blessing that is. So, our title is Triggers and the blessings that they present us with. And, you can do this the next time, for any listeners, if there's somebody that just really upsets you, maybe they're screaming at you, or maybe they're doing something that you think they're doing all wrong. I really, really highly encourage you to try this out. And maybe you've tried it before, try it again. If you've never tried it, please do try it, and just do something different than you would have done before, and do it with love. So, and another thing that I like to do when I get triggered, is if I notice that I really want to do some kind of verbal attack, or some kind of defense of my thoughts or something, what I like to do is just give no energy to it. That is like one of the most fantastic things. You know, someone's just screaming at you and they're insulting you, and, you know, you're just, you know, you feel all these emotions inside and you're thinking they're lying and they're not true, and how could they attack you, and you need to defend yourself. If in that moment you can see that all those things that are happening aren't real, that it's all an illusion, and if you just give no energy to it, you would be amazed. Because it's just like when I think of, you know, war. If you have a war, but nobody gives energy to it, what would happen? You would have peace. So it's just, and we can, each one of us, contribute to the peace of this world by not giving energy to whatever kind of like, you know, stress response or, unhealthy things that are happening in our mind from what we're seeing in our world. And now I'm looking. Okay, so we have 3 minutes. So Matthew, you got a minute, and then Peter, you got a minute after that. Okay.
Yeah, great. So the power of focus is a really important point to remember, and wherever we put our focus on, that's where our energy goes. So focusing on fear brings us fear. Focusing on love brings us love. And by really holding that intention in mind and remembering it as often as possible, it only makes sense to choose peace, to choose love, to choose healing. Because the opposite of healing is unhealing, dis-ease, disharmony, and all these things. And when we truly see that from a reasonable and logical place, a higher-minded place, then there's really no other choice except for peace.
Thank you, Matthew. Peter?
I absolutely agree. And I guess just say it in a slightly different way for our listeners, to choose fear is to remain focused outward. And to choose the Holy Spirit is to let go of what we see outside of ourselves. And to go to a place where we look for silence, where we look for a sense of stillness, because out in the world is not the place of stillness. And as long as we're engaged in that, we're putting our focus on it, and in fact we're being distracted away again by the ego to look for where the answer is not. So it becomes somewhat easier to really see, where am I looking right now to try and feel better? And if we see that we're doing so by trying to, again, it starts with our body and it goes outwards. If we're trying to fix our body, if we're trying to fix the other person, if we're trying to fix the world, we're simply looking to where the answer does not lie, which is exactly what the ego would have to do. And once we recognize that, it's easier to let go and simply go into that place of stillness.
Thank you so much. I've already heard the 60 seconds about maybe 20 seconds ago. So so basically what I got when I was listening to Peter was just go within, make peace within. When you make peace within, it'll be all around you. So bye, guys. Thanks to the listeners for listening.
Bye. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Matthew.
Yeah, thanks.
See you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for everyone for listening. Bye for now.
Again, by the ego to look for where the answer is not. So it becomes somewhat easier to really see, where am I looking right now to try and feel better? And if we see that we're doing so by trying to, again, it starts with our body and it goes outwards. If we're trying to fix our body, if we're trying to fix the other person, if we're trying to fix the world, we're simply looking to where the answer does not lie, which is exactly what the ego would have us do. And once we recognize that, it's easier to let go and simply go into that place of stillness.
Thank you so much. I've already heard the 60 seconds about maybe 20 seconds ago. So so basically what I got when I was listening to Peter was just go within, make peace within. When you make peace within, it'll be all around you. So bye, guys. Thanks to the listeners for listening.
Bye. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Matthew.
Yeah, thanks.
See you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for everyone for listening. Bye for now.